One. There it
What
is.
up,
We
ladies and
are
gents?
live.
It
Woo!
is Monday, and we're ready to rock and
Mondays.
roll. We got a great
We
show
sure
for you guys
are.
today. So, James, hit it.
Let's go off.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business, on social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business Bros.
Woo!
Well, we're ready to have some fun, ladies and gents. James,
Hell yeah.
It is time for some fire.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's guest has a most impressive resume. He is the host of the UK's #1 business podcast, Scale Up Your Business. So we were of like minds. But that, of course, is just the tip of the iceberg. Our guest has a very particular skill and is a world-renowned business growth and scale-up specialist. His mission is to exceptional leaders unlock their full potential. So if you want to scale your business, you're definitely going to want to tune in today. Our work with equity investment help facilitate 22 business acquisition across 8 business sectors in 11 countries. Altogether,
Yep.
creating a valuation for those companies of over $5.3 billion. Billion. What a rock star.
That's it.
What a rock star. We're so excited to have this guest on the show today. Joined at nearly midnight from the UK, the co-founder of the Field Group and dedicated to helping entrepreneurs freedom, build wealth, and live life without limits. Give it up. Nick Bradley!
Nick,
Man,
welcome to the program.
That is the best intro, guys. Come on, that's worth being up at midnight in the UK with fire, and I got people clapping. Man, this is going to be fun.
That's how we roll.
Hell yeah.
That's how we roll. All right, Nick.
All about that fun.
Let's get into some of the juicy stuff. Man, you are a fellow podcaster out there doing your thing. I want to know how you got into the whole podcast space. I mean, give me a little synopsis of, what you did before and how you got into the whole podcasting game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I had a whole background working in sort of corporate land, which we don't need to talk about because that's the boring bit. Then I did sort of a whole stint in private equity, which is where you've got, really rich guys going and buying businesses that are undervalued, and then they put mugs like me in there to kind of scale them up and turn them around and make them millions, if not billions. So I did that for about a decade and had my own kind of epiphany that I thought, you know what, I'm going to jump seats. Instead of sitting on that side, I'm going to go and jump on the side of the business owner, the entrepreneur. And part of that journey was starting a podcast. And you know what's really funny about it, right, is I kind of sat on the idea for months. I thought, I'm not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then I put it out there. And it got a really, really good traction and decent audience really quickly. And as you guys have said, it went to #1 in the UK charts. I think it was number 17 in the US business charts as well. And it's been a massively fun ride since then of all sorts of crazy stuff and meeting some really fun and interesting, successful entrepreneurs and business leaders.
What was your intent when you got into it? I mean, obviously you were going to get into the new, stepping out of the corporate space, going into entrepreneur space, but why the podcast? Like what was your intent going into it?
Yeah. So what happened, right, is I had this kind of corporate career where I got some pretty early success. So I was kind of sitting on sort of Fortune 500 boards before I was 30. And then I was like a CEO before I was 35 of some smaller businesses, but still pretty high profile.
So you had the Midas touch, basically, right?
To be honest, can I be honest on this show?
Absolutely.
I was a bit of an ass, right? I kind of, everything was about me. It was about kind of how high I could get, how much money I could make, all these sort of things. And what ended up happening is I ended up having a bit of a kind of, I wouldn't say it was a breakdown, but I had this kind of, I'm not the person I wanted to be. And my wife was telling me so, and I wasn't being the best dad to my 2 girls. And I kind of thought, you know what, I need to kind of get some balance. So instead of just going after the money, the status, I need to start to put a bit more out there to help people. And so to be really frank about it, the podcast was done so I could actually start to get a bit more balance in my life by putting some stuff out there to help people and having more contribution instead of just, focusing so much on achievement. So that was the
Wait, Nick,
catalyst.
so money can't buy you happiness? Is that what you're
Well,
trying
you
to
know
tell
what?
me
I
here?
had heaps of cash and still do, but I wasn't happy. So, there you go.
What was it about? People often look to that whole success level as this is when I'm going to achieve my happiness. Like, I want to know a little bit more about that feeling of inadequacy, like where you're not happy yet you have everything. Like that doesn't make sense for a lot of people. A lot of people look up to somebody
Yeah.
like that and they think, dude, that guy's got it all. He's got the cars, he's got the houses, he's got the everything he can possibly want. How could he not be happy?
Yeah, well, let me unpack it because I think, it's one of those things I thought the same. And like, I get it that people are probably looking at me thinking, look at this guy, woe is he. Yeah, I don't want to come across as someone who's not grateful for what I had. All it was simply this, is I was thinking that the next mountain I was going to climb, the next job promotion, the bigger company, the better house, the nicer car was kind of getting me to some point of, feeling happy and fulfilled. And what I found is every time I got to one level, I had to get to the next level. So I never stopped and felt satisfied by the whole thing. And so what ended up happening is I realized that it was because, to be really happy in life, you need to have balance across lots of areas. So you need to have success in your career, success in your relationships. You've got to be sort of physically well, health, all that sort of stuff. And I just had one area, which was career, business, just totally disproportionately outweighing everything else.
Yeah, your scale was tipped
Yeah.
all the way into
Oh
one
man.
side.
Man, you should have. I did say the word ass, didn't I?
Yeah. but there's a lot of people out there, myself included, who are always seeking that professional level of success, right? Like I think, I'm on the mindset of, if I can achieve that, then having that kind of success will make my wife happy. Having achieved that, I can provide my children with what they want. Having achieved this thing, I can do all the other things. How were you able to find what you call balance? Because honestly, I don't feel there ever is a balance, because wherever I'm looking, I'm not looking in the other direction. If I'm focused on one thing, I am not focused on the other.
Yeah. Well, the thing I had is I wasn't present. Right. So everything was about what's next, not kind of what I had, which again, I don't think people in most situations don't really kind of understand what they've got right now is probably enough. And so for me, I wouldn't say necessarily that everything right now is fully balanced. There's points where I'm focusing on certain things and I've got goals and different ambitions and I've got still massive aspirations of what I'm building, certainly in my kind of business life, but I've got significantly better at being intentional with my time. So instead of it all being about what's next in the terms of business, I can sort of compartmentalize different things so that I'm focused on the things that matter in the times when I've scheduled them.
So now that you
tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift.
I love that
awesome.
Panda quote. I love that Panda quote. I mean, but that's kind of something that I've been really thinking about lately. I've been journaling for quite some time, but I've added a secondary journaling step to what I do to add that level of gratitude. So I have that action of gratitude in the mornings. I also make sure that I reflect on the day before and effectively plan what my intention is for the day. It helps me, again, kind of narrow in on what is valuable today, right? What can I get accomplished today to achieve whatever it is that I want to achieve? And it could be a health goal. It could be, a financial goal. It could be a family goal, whatever it is. But I'm starting to map out in my priority list for my intention, what is my dollar productive activity I need to do for the day? What is my health thing that I need to get accomplished today? What is my family thing that I need to accomplish today, in that same light, to try to find that balance? Now that you've kind of set yourself up for that, what are you looking to accomplish now? Because I feel like that level of competitiveness never goes away in an entrepreneur or a winner. There's always a level that you have to go up to.
No, I mean, listen, I'm probably more competitive or have higher sort of ambitions for myself than what I did back in the corporate. I feel in some cases unleashed, because when I was in that sort of framework of, the movie The Matrix, and I'm sure someone's going to put up a Matrix thing now, the red and the blue pill, I was stuck in a world where everything wasn't quite as it seemed. And now I feel unleashed and I'm doing what I want. I'm serving people. I've got now 7 businesses coming up to, I had 10 streams of income It's going to be 11 as of next week because we've got a new business launching. And so I'm actually doing more now than what I was doing when I was stuck in the world of corporate, but I'm doing it with much more balance around everything else. So I don't think you lose the fire. And if anything, I'm sort of jumping more into bigger risks and bigger opportunities than what I was doing previously. It's just this idea of that I can put focus where I need to put focus. I'm disciplined enough to take the right actions at the right times. And I've had to be honest, I trained myself to do that. I've trained myself to be able to be clearer on the things that are important at the right times. And I think that's a bit of an area that a lot of people don't understand, or more importantly, don't know what to do about.
Well, let's use that, because I wanted to kind of pivot into this whole scaling thing, right?
Yeah.
Taking a business from concept to the point where you can sell it to another person, or you can take it as an IPO and sell it to other investors, or pitch it to angel investors or capital investors, whatever it's going to be. That's a whole different type of way of looking at business. When you come into a venture, what is it that you're looking for, and what is it that you often see, like common mistakes that you see people getting into when they're in business?
Yeah, sure. Let me get into that, because I think one of the things, and I'll tell you a really funny analogy, right? So, did you play with Lego when you were a kid, or even now?
Yeah, absolutely.
So right, okay. So this is
Even
the way
now.
I tell the story. I do too. I love it. My girls have got Star Wars Lego everywhere, and I'm all over it. And anyway, so as a kid, right, I always said there's like two type of Lego builders. There's the Lego builder who kind of just gets all the bricks and just kind of makes some crazy cool thing, right? Just takes it all and just whatever. And then you've got the other type who kind of gets the instructions out and builds the thing almost to sort of perfect levels of precision and engineering, following the instructions. So it's perfect, right? So I was the latter. I was the guy that could kind of, make something so precise, turn it into a machine. And I'm that sort of entrepreneur. So if I go into a business now, I can pretty easily and very quickly diagnose exactly the areas which are working in that business, which are optimized, and which areas are broken and need to be fixed. And the journey of scale up in many cases is going into a business which has been great at startup. In other words, it's had a good idea that solved a problem. It's got its first customers. And then quite often happens is they hit this struggle zone. It's often called the wilderness. And that really creative entrepreneur who started the business has no idea what the hell's going on. And then they hit this plateau. And I've been involved in businesses that have been in plateaus for literally years. And then I can go into them and say, okay, well, we need to fix marketing. We need to fix operations. We need to do this, that, and the other. And once you start to learn those triggers, and we can get into kind of the mechanics of it, then you can scale businesses quickly. And as what you said is right. Once you get to a certain level of scale, you create a business that's so awesome that other people want to buy it. And if you want to create wealth in your life, it's much easier to create wealth from selling a business and creating what we call a capital event than it is from trying to grow the thing organically and always working in the business and sort of trading time for money.
And that's having that large capital event, or having that setup point, it takes a different kind of eye. When you were describing it, and you said you can come into a venture now and see like where their mishaps are, what they're missing. That kind of implies that every business has pretty much the same type of systems that need to be put into place. That you can walk into a dry cleaning company as much as you can walk into a tech company and easily identify the differences. What are those key components that you were kind of describing that they tend to lack?
Yeah. Okay. So the one thing that jumps out all the time is when a business starts going, let's say, backwards or not growing. It's often not the business that's the problem. It's usually the person running it. And that's a bit of a difficult one, particularly for people who have started a business successfully and then they get stuck. And that's where, you asked before about why has my podcast been successful and why did I do it? A lot of what I talk about is the importance of business mindset, growth mindset, because quite often it's the bottleneck comes from the owner or the entrepreneur losing focus and confidence. So that's the first piece. The second piece is, a lot of businesses, they just don't run the fundamentals very well. So the fundamentals of business are things like cash flow. So you often hear the phrase cash is king. As you go through challenging times, if you haven't got reserves, then a business can go backwards very quickly. And a lot of businesses fail because cash management isn't there. The second thing I see all the time is that businesses are not sort of externally focused. They're not necessarily looking at their customers or the market and making decisions which are coming from that sphere of influence, from those insights. And they're sort of stuck in there thinking, well, actually, this product that I made 4 years ago is still a great product. But what they don't realize is the market's changed. And like right now with digital and different things happening around the economy and everything, like the speed of change in the external market is so fast that, I often say you've got to be making decisions every quarter now to make sure that you're still remaining relevant for your customers. And then the other thing, and this is the key bit, because it doesn't really matter about sector or anything, is that scale up is the ability to build teams and to introduce systems, processes, and automation. It doesn't matter if it's a dry cleaner, doesn't matter if it's a Fortune 500 company. They're the core building blocks. And as you scale, it's about bringing more people in, which means more complexity, means culture, means values. And a lot of people struggle with that, and therefore they don't build the fundamentals around how you incentivize and bring the right capability in to drive growth. And so quite often you can pick, it's often said the wrong people in the wrong seats, or the right people in the wrong seats, or however you want to describe it. But that's one of the biggest fundamentally sort of breakdowns of people who are going through that journey to scale up.
You mentioned how you have to change on a quarterly basis to stay relevant. My big soapbox lately has been, if you're in business, you need to have a podcast. With COVID hitting, people have been cutting back on expenses, and oftentimes they cut back on marketing expenses when this is the time where you need more exposure, not less.
Yeah.
And so I've been a big proponent of, you need to start a podcast. This is the best way for you to stay in front of those people that are already part of your database, are already part of your circle of influence. You need to put out more content. It's been the best prospecting tool I have ever come across in my entire, 15 years of business. There's no other way that I've been able to meet new people on a daily basis and talk to them about, whatever it is that we're doing. What is your point of view on the podcasting as a marketing employee, as a branding employee for businesses?
Oh God, 100% agree with everything you said. I sort of broaden it slightly to say you have to have a media platform. Mm-hmm. So whether it's a podcast or whether it's YouTube or something, definitely voice and video is important. But what it comes back to is this, right? There's the concept of B2B and B2C, and I don't really believe in that anymore. I think it's P2P, it's person to person. So, people have always bought from other people, right? So it comes back to things like, knowing, liking, and trusting someone. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a media vehicle like a podcast, and people can spend, every single week, half an hour with you, and I put out 2 episodes a week. I have a 15-minute one on Mondays, and then I have a long interview one that goes out on Thursdays. People are kind of calling me up saying, like, they know me. I'm Nick, and like we're mates. And sometimes it gets really funny because they're like, oh, I can't believe it's you. I can't believe I'm speaking to you. And I get a bit embarrassed. But I tell you what, all of the businesses that we have, I've got a business partner as well, but all the businesses that we have since we've been doing the podcast have grown considerably. Some of them have tripled. And what it comes back to is having a personal brand with an opinion that some people like and some people don't like. You've got to stand for and against something. You can't just be vanilla in the middle. It's an amazing way of creating raving fans, prospecting, just qualifying people who you want to have in your world from a commercial standpoint as much as anything else.
How do you decide how divided you want to be? Like, there are so many issues, especially today, whether you're talking political, whether you're talking social, economic, there are all kinds of different areas that you can go on one side or the other and be controversial. And I know this answer varies from person to person, but how are you deciding how to stay relevant and how to be, polarizing in a sense, in some aspect?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I do stay in my lane. So I'm not, there's a lot of people who go out there and do this thing called engagement jacking, which is they'll just say whatever needs to be said, which is the polar opposite of what the majority are saying at any one time, just to get, people following them or to stand out. And I don't believe in that personally. I mean, I talk about business, I talk about personal development, I talk about mindset, I talk about investments, acquisitions. I talk about that stuff. Now, if something big politically comes up and someone asks my opinion on it, then I will give an opinion on it. But what I don't do is jump into everything that's topical at any one point in time and just have to have an opinion just because I want to kind of build an audience off that. My personal belief is the people who I want to appeal to might be a very select few in the thousands that absolutely buy into what I say and how I help them and how I contribute, not trying to build hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who, quite frankly, are just there for vanity reasons. So that's my perspective. I appreciate that's not everyone's perspective. That's how I like to look at it.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm the same exact way when we talk about building an audience and redefining the influencer. I talk a lot about that as well. And I try to tell people the same thing. I mean, there's like this core 100 people that are already in your life that you talk to on a regular basis. The problem is they have no idea what you do. Like they know you, but they have no idea what you do because you never spoke about it. You've never said a single thing. So being an influencer.
You sound like my wife now. That's what she says. She goes, "What do you do? You do this podcast thing?" And I said, "Yeah, I just do the podcast, babe. Don't worry."
I say the same thing, right? But at the same token, like everybody that you want to have influence on is seeing you, is hearing you, is recognizing you. It's a very one-sided relationship because they know you better than you know them. You probably don't even know that they're around yet. You haven't made an introduction. They haven't been introduced as any part of your life for the most part, but you're bringing them value nonetheless. Right. Yeah. And that's what the medium is about. And I keep grouping everything together. I keep saying podcast, but really, it's a lot more than that. It's being able to be on live. It's being able to, break it up and have small pieces. It's being able to have branding laid out the way we do. It's just a matter of staying in front of people and telling them what it is you do. It's marketing 101.
It is, and the ability to build authenticity and trust and rapport. I mean, that's the key thing for me is, and people sometimes, I mean, when I kind of coach or mentor people, which I still do, they come and say, "Oh, I don't want to put myself out there. I just want to kind of market my business. I just want to kind of take the brand of my business and do Facebook ads or something like that." And I go, listen, I totally get that this is not easy. I totally get that, jumping on a Facebook Live or doing the stuff like we're doing here is you've got to kind of have a certain degree of confidence and it gets easier over time. But you are missing a massive opportunity to step up and stand out at a very cost-effective way of doing it versus anything else you could be doing. So if you're serious about growing and scaling your business and you're not going to put yourself out there or at least leverage what's out there that's available to you, you're not going to get to where you need to get to quickly or possibly at all.
That's absolutely true. Now we got to take a quick little break here.
I am loving today's show. So good. But let me throw a quick little Ham's insurance tip at all here. And today we're talking about vicarious liability and personal injury. So vicarious liability means that you as a parent are responsible for the wrongful acts committed by your kids. And as a business owner, you're responsible for the acts of employees. Now in your business, your general liability coverage will typically extend to your employees, but not always be said for the liability coverage in homeowners policy, specific for personal injury such as libel and slander. So when I was a kid, we had bullies, right? The bullies were in school, and once school was over, well, that was about it. No more bullies, at least until we went back to school the next day. Nowadays, however, the bullying doesn't stop when the kids go home. Social media can be especially cruel to these kids. This is why a personal injury endorsement on your homeowners or renters policy is important. If your kid gets caught up in online bullying, you might be on the hook for a libel lawsuit. It's all on the internet, recorded and stored. Not to mention, you could be sued for leaving a bad review on Yelp that causes a financial loss. Personal injury is an optional cover in your homeowner's policy, and your agent may have removed it to give you a few weeks. Look for it in your policy to make sure that you're protected. Now, if you have questions or need any advice, give Pipeline Insurance a call at 77928-9994 and follow me on Twitter at InsuranceBroHam.
Woo!
Good stuff.
Nick, you've been doing this for a while now. You've had so many great experiences. I'm going to ask you a little bit of advice. The other day we had a guest on the show that is promoting young entrepreneurs to go out and pitch their ideas, get out there and do something. He's awarding 2 $500 cash prizes and one $750 cash prize to young kids that are out there getting started. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs? They don't got to be that young. Could be the 21-year-old kids fresh out of college, but what advice would you give?
Man, I love that. I love entrepreneurship. For me is such an amazing place, right? And I kind of think it's one of those things that gets sometimes a bit of a bad rap because it's it can be confusing, right? Not everyone's going to go out there and have the next Uber or kind of tech startup that gets to $1 billion, but you've just got to be able to go out there and solve a meaningful problem. So my advice is this: is first and foremost, make sure that you get, like I said beforehand, get out of your head a bit. You need to be creative, but you also want to make sure that you've got a really clear target market and what I call kind of avatar or persona. And this is crucial because a lot of people that I mentor, and I do mentor young entrepreneurs, they're not clear on who their customer is. And the more you can get focused, sometimes it's called creating a niche, and the more you can understand that individual that you're going to serve with your product or service, the more successful you'll be. The second thing is be super clear that there is actually a problem. I see so many entrepreneurs go out there and they create something that they think is solving a problem, but the problem doesn't really exist. So make sure that you speak to your audience and make sure that's super clear. And then when you actually go to launch your solution that's going to be sort of solving that problem, make sure that you test and trial lots of different things. So again, I see lots of entrepreneurs go out there thinking that one form of marketing or some sort of go-to-market strategy is going to help them. And what I say these days is marketing is really testing. Test, do lots of low-cost tests. And when you start to see something working, then, put the gasoline on the fire, to use that expression, and that's where you'll start to get quick growth. And then all of a sudden you're on that exciting ride of startup.
Yeah, that is so true. When you finally figure out something that works. And here's the funny thing about that. It comes down to asking questions. Oftentimes in almost any aspect of business, when people get out there and they're like, I don't have enough clients. Well, how many people did you talk to today? That's the issue. I haven't talked to anybody. Or you have a lot of leads that you've generated. I still don't have any business. How many did you follow up with? I still haven't reached out. It's that having that ability to converse with somebody and ask the question. If you have an idea, go out there and ask your ideal avatar, your client, is this something that you would buy? Or what am I missing? What would you like to see? Asking those questions and getting clarity, I think is one of those hurdles that people need to overcome.
Absolutely. You've got to be externally focused. This is the thing. The best entrepreneurs, the ones that are successful, the ones that get funding and have to go and pitch to angel investors or whatever's going on in that space, are the ones that are externally focused. So the more that you can talk about, hey, it's not my opinion, it's the market, and I've done my homework to get that, they're the ones that kind of cut through the sea of people trying to start businesses.
All right, I got 2 more segments for you, but this is the next one. We've talked about your personality type, what you wanted to achieve. We talked about the balance that you've had or not have had getting to the level of success that you've reached. You are doing it the right way this time, and yet there's still a level that you want to reach. What's in the future for you? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah, so for me, there's 2 big things. So I'm big into building a portfolio of companies. So if you kind of go through the different stages of startup to scale up, the end goal of that, if you're kind of really into business, is creating an empire. And that's essentially having multiple businesses. Sometimes they work together, sometimes independently. But the goal for me from a personal perspective is to get my my net worth up to over 100 million by having a portfolio of businesses together and basically working through that cycle of investors to private equity, creating value from those scale ups. Now that's kind of the more personal piece from the wealth creation standpoint. But then my bigger mission really, and this is something that came from something that happened a few years ago to me, is trying to bring entrepreneurial skill set and mindset to people in the world who don't get access to that type of information. And someone said to me years ago, and I think it's been used a few times, is that the cure for cancer might be sitting in some poor person's head in the middle of Africa where they just don't have access to education, certainly the right education that can kind of drive creative thinking around entrepreneurship. So for me, it's also setting up a foundation where I can provide that information to people who just don't have the means or the accessibility to the stuff that I've had the privilege of being exposed to.
I love that. It reminds me of Tupac, and I heard him say, he's like, I may not change the world, but I will inspire the mind of the person who will. Right.
Love
And
it.
that's kind of,
Love
the
it.
same type of MO. It's like, just share what you got. You never know, the butterfly effect, right? The ripple effect. You
Yeah.
never know what your drop in the pond can do, across the world.
Yeah, and I get most of the things I do now. The satisfaction I get is helping and inspiring people to kind of chase the dreams that they have around entrepreneurship. So if I can do that more at scale because I have the means to do that, because I have created this empire which is commercially viable, successful, then that's that's not something you retire from, right? That's just something you do because you love to do it. You have a passion for it.
You're never going to give it up.
No, I love this, man. This is like my favorite thing. As I said, my wife has to drag me away from it.
I feel the same exact way. I resemble that remark 100%. All right, last little section here. Workaholics, what can I say? All right, you have a podcast. You've been a guest on a number of different podcasts. Now you've been on the Business Bros podcast. I want to know what your experience was like on our show, what you think of our production, our show quality, the host, James's insurance tips, or whatever you want to share with us.
This, I've got to say, and I've been on a few, as you said before, and I've got my own show. This is awesome. This is the best produced show I've been on. It's fun, and I love it. I've got to be honest. It's great. I don't know what to say. I want to say something negative now because I feel like I'm just gushing you with praise. but I do. I love it. I think it's cool. And I think, the whole stuff that you guys are doing and trying to open up this world of entrepreneurship and that sort of thing is fantastic. So I'm really happy to be able to support you and to give some value to your audience today.
Well, thank you, Nick. I mean, again, when people come on and share their stories, their trials, their tribulations, their successes and their failures, like I think that is what people resonate with. We have passed on our skill set over history through stories, and there's nothing better than sharing yours because you never know who is gonna. The person listening might not even be listening today. They might listen to the story, a year or two from now, but it's the right time that they need to accept that message that comes into their life. And like you said, it might be the person who cures cancer. You never know.
I know, and I love that. I often say when I'm producing a podcast or I'm writing something, I'm always thinking about, does it change the life or does it influence and inspire one person? And quite frankly, if that happens, if I'm always focused on that, I tend to get the best result in terms of the content I put out there. So that's always been my mantra. So I fully believe in that.
Well, I'm going to share one more thing with you when it comes to producing content. And I say this quite often, but I can never tell my kids, I can never show them what my grandpa was like. They'll never know. They'll know my stories, but they'll never know his accent, his mannerisms, his sense of humor, nothing. But who knows? Right now, my great-great-grandchildren could be listening to this episode or a couple episodes that I did. Every episode that I place on the internet is a piece of me, a legacy of me that lives on forever. And that, to me, is powerful. That's like, now you know exactly who I was, what I thought, what I believed in, what I laughed like, what I laughed at, all these different things because you put out that content.
Man, I got goosebumps thinking about that. That's a lovely piece. Because like, honestly, if I press, scale up your business in the car, I get my two girls who are 5 and 8 going, Dad, turn yourself off. one day when they've got kids or grandkids or whatever else, then actually perhaps they may want to listen to it. Yeah,
you never know, right? I mean, we go through photo albums to reminisce and remember people. Yeah. And we, I wish we had video back then, except, it was a big old camera that you have to carry around. So for us to be able to do it today, it's just, what we have is now online for us to share with everybody.
That's a great point. And it's so much fun. I love having fun, interesting conversations with people, right? That's it gets me excited. And that's why I love doing it. Yeah, it's cool.
100%. Nick, thank you for being on the show. Ladies and gents, that's a wrap for Monday. That's all we got for you guys today. Make sure you guys check out Nick's website. Just throw it on here real quick. If you guys want to connect with Nick, check out his podcast, check out everything he's going on. It's at nickbradley.com. Make sure you follow him on Instagram at Nick C. Bradley. And again, Nick, thank you for being on the program.
Hey, it's been awesome, guys. Nick C. Bradley. Yeah, nickcbradley.com. But listen, guys, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I said, this is just an amazing show, and I enjoyed it immensely. I was laughing my head off with the fire at the beginning. So that's cool. That's a highlight for my almost 1 o'clock in the morning in the UK time.
Thank you for being on, taking the time to come on. Appreciate you. All right, guys, that's all we got for you guys today. Peace. And we're out.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.